Again, as I mentioned, I'm Kay Chopard, and I am the new executive director, and I'm pleased to welcome you. And it looks as though we're continuing to have folks join the call. If you have the opportunity, could you rename yourself if your whole name isn't there, so we see your full name, and if you're willing, tell us where you're from, either the company or where you are in the world. People are introducing themselves in the chat, and I encourage you to continue to do that. We will be going through a variety of things, talking and telling you about what's happened in Cantara in 2021 and what the plans are for the future. So let me just give you a little bit of an overview of what we hope to do. It's kind of an action-packed hour and a half, and we have a lot of folks who are going to be contributing. So we appreciate your attention. If you see things that you want to ask questions about, we've hoped to have left room at the end for certain to get to those. But if you want to put those in the chat, we'll try to address them as we can. And if we don't get to them during the program, we will at the very end. And we can also follow up with you. So after my little welcome here, I will be showing you the antitrust statement so that everyone is aware of that policy and to make sure that everyone agrees to it. I will give you a little bit of an overview about what I've been doing in the 5 months that I've been here. Matt Thompson is the president of the board of directors, but unfortunately he's in transit on a business trip and was unsure of his internet connectivity. So we have a short video from him to talk about some of the things he wanted you to know that the board has been doing and what they're actively pursuing for the coming year. We'll also do some membership updates. And during that time, we will have a presentation from our new accountant. We have a new accounting firm, and the head of that company will be talking to you about the budget for 2022 and the fee schedules. We'll also be hearing from Leif Johansson, who is the chair of the Assurance Review Board, with a report. We'll talk a little bit about membership. We have a couple of members who have some amazing programs that we'll spotlight for a little bit. We'll hear from the Leadership Council Chair, Andrew Hughes, but we'll also hear from some of the work group chairs. We did not have time to do every single work group, but those who've been very active will be talking a little bit. I'll tell you a little bit about the liaisons and what we're doing with those. And then we will end up with an introduction of those candidates for at-large directors for the board. And not immediately after this, but shortly, there will be an e-ballot that will be distributed to all members. If you don't get one by like Monday, let me know. It will be open for several days. You'll be getting many reminders, and we want to make sure that everyone participates in the election of those at-large directors to the board. This is, of course, the Cantara's antitrust statement. It's very important that you read it and that you are willing to accept it before we proceed. This is the same antitrust statement. It hasn't changed. If you participate in any of the work groups or you've been to other Cantara meetings, I'm sure you have seen it before, but I wanted to make sure to post it for everyone. So let me tell you a little bit. As I said, I'm the new executive director. It has been a whirlwind start to joining the organization. I'm very pleased to be a part of this group. I have met some very amazing folks. You are all doing incredible things, and it's exciting to be a part of it. Some of my priorities for the upcoming year and what I've tried to focus on a little bit in my first few months, we look forward to trying to continue to grow the membership. And along with that, we also want to build up the assurance program. And by building up the assurance program, I don't mean just getting more organizations to go through the assurance program, but actually continuing to build it up and make it better all the time. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later in the program. I'm also hoping to enhance our business processes. I am very fortunate. My predecessor, Colin Wallace, left the organization in terrific shape. It is very financially sound and viable, which is the place you want to start from, and already had so many things going on, so many places where we are active. It's really terrific. how he left the organization before he moved back to New Zealand, and I'm very grateful for that. But in the process, I've also looked at ways that maybe we can streamline our business processes. One of the things that those of you who interact with Cantara will notice is that we have ended the contract that we have for an association management company, and instead we are replacing them. And this is an ongoing process. This is in transition still, so it's not complete. We've instead replaced those with folks who have specific expertise. So as I mentioned, instead of getting generalists who generally manage we've opted instead to bring in experts for specific tasks. So we have a new accounting firm, which is very experienced, very focused. I think the board will tell you that they've already seen dramatic changes in the reporting and the understanding and the ability to have control and be able to report on our finances in ways that I think will be very beneficial going forward. In someone with expertise specific to marketing and communications. And Karen Bright is the person I brought on. Karen, you can wave your hand maybe. She is actually based in the UK. And she is looking at sort of all aspects of our communications, and we are putting together a plan for the coming year for what we hope to accomplish, what outcomes we're looking for, and to really, I think, turn around our communications and take a different approach maybe than we have in the past that hopefully is much more active and action oriented. I also wanted to introduce Armin. Armin, I can't pronounce your last name. Katrine? I'm so sorry, I've ruined it.
It's okay, it's Kantara.
See, I'm terrible, I'm so sorry. Armin, though, is fantastic. He heads our IT. He is already working to make some changes to the website, to a lot of our processes, making them more automated, making them simpler, easy to use. I think he has his work cut out for him, but he is doing a terrific job. And I'm very excited to have him leading the effort when it comes to all of our IT and all of our websites, Confluence and the wikis, all of those things. He's really working to continue to improve those. Another person new to the staff, but is not able to be on video today is Lindsay Adams. Lindsay is the new assurance program manager. And she is also in a place with not terrific internet connectivity today. So we'll hear more about the assurance program and Lindsay's work. And then, of course, I hope to continue to support the work groups. We have new ones that are starting, and we're going to continue to see that. Cantara's international role, clearly, Colin and all of you in the organization have worked to have a global footprint for Cantara, which is terrific, but it's big shoes for me to try to fill. There's a lot going on, and I'm excited to continue to pursue those. ISO certification is another thing that the board will be taking up to look at Cantara becoming ISO certified under 17065 as an internationally recognized certification body. So it's a lot going on, and it's all good stuff. So that's my report. This is Cantara's mission statement. I wanted to put this out here because it has been refreshed, as I understand it. Again, this is thanks to the board's work to grow and fulfill the market for trustworthy use of identity and personal data. And not only is this on, a lot of the documentation that I send out, but I really try to keep this handy so that I remain focused on what the mission of Cantara really is about. So now, I think I have to stop sharing. I want to share the video that Matt Thompson was able to make. Fingers crossed that this works.
No audio.
You can't hear that? Darn it.
No.
Yeah, you need to.
There's a setting on share that explicitly about audio.
I know,
In
and
advance
I
sharing
thought I
is a
had.
setting for sharing your computer audio.
How many backseat drivers does it take to play a video? 38.
When I did this before, I had checked it all, so I thought it was still there, but apparently it's not.
Well, let's be positive. It's a lip reading learning exercise.
We get to take the lessons that we wish to out of it.
Right.
Thank you so much, Kay, and welcome
Can you
to
hear it
all of our
now?
members and partners. My
Yeah.
name is Matt Thompson. I've served as the president of the board over the last year. And on behalf of the board of directors at Cantara, I want to welcome you to our annual member meeting. Looking back at 2021, the organization has accomplished a lot of great things. One thing I want to start by highlighting is the transition that we did with our executive directors. I want to start that by saying how appreciative we are to Colin Wallace and all the leadership he's provided for many, many years to get the organization to where it is today, which is stronger and better and more impactful than it's ever been, and has really kind of set up a great opportunity for Kay Chopard to come in and take the organization to the next level. We conducted a search through the first 2 quarters of the year and started our transition between Colin and Kay between June and August of this year. And I just want to say that since Kay has taken over the organization, she's already had a huge impact. She's done a lot of things that you'll hear throughout the entire membership meeting today to really improve the operational efficiency of the organization. She's come in and connected with a lot of our members and a lot of our partners, liaison partners, and governments around the world that are really interested in understanding how they can connect with Cantara and be a part of our vision and mission. So that transition was a big effort with the board as we conducted that search, and we are again just so thankful for Colin's efforts over the years, as well as through the transition, to make that transition as seamless as possible, as well as just express our excitement about Kay coming in to provide the leadership she's already demonstrated as our executive director. During that transition, we also had another transition with the assurance program leadership, and want to really identify Ruth and recognize her for the leadership that she's provided within the assurance program. She left very big shoes to fill, but we're excited that Lindsay has stepped right into those and has been working hand in hand with Laith in the assurance review board, as well as our assessors and member organizations that are going through the assurance program. So I also want to thank and recognize Ruth, as well as welcome Lindsay to the team, and just thank you for the great work, Lindsay, that you've done so far. You'll hear more from Lindsay in a session coming up in a few moments. So we've had a lot of growth in our assurance program, which we really view as the crown jewel for Cantara. We've seen a lot more members coming in over the past year with ID verification services, and they've been attracted to Cantara because of the strength of our assurance program, the quality of that assurance program. So, you know, it's been wonderful to see that pick up. A lot of the pickup that we're seeing is related to the growth and the demand and need for the services that Cantara provides and Cantara member organizations provide through COVID, as digital transformation for a lot of the customers of our members has really advanced rapidly. And so there's never been a more important time for Cantara to be doing the work that we do collectively to support the broader use of best practices and best principles as it relates to identity and trust. And then we continue to grow in our international reputation. A lot of that is being done through our executive director. Both Colin and Kay have had a strong commitment to growing our ties internationally. You'll hear some of those remarks from Kay as she talks about some of the international engagement that we've done through conferences, as well as through the liaison organizations that we're engaged with. I want to take a moment to talk about the board priorities. Your board meets monthly and spends several hours in working sessions together as a board once a month, as well as in between board meetings, to really advance our priorities. And I wanted to share those with the members and partners that are attending this member meeting today. So the first one is really how we increase the awareness of the value Cantara provides to our members as well as to the broader ecosystem. And then we're really ramping up our marketing and promotion of the Cantara brand. We've brought on a dedicated marketing leader that works on Kay's team with very clear objectives that are aligned to Kay's vision for the organization. And so we're ramping up and you should see the benefit of increased marketing and promotion that we're doing. And we want to do more of that with our members and continue to spotlight and amplify the message and the good work that our members are promoting in the broader community. And then we want to continue strengthening relationships across industries as well. And then we have a fiduciary responsibility really around the financial stability to support the program growth. So we're working on ways that we can be more efficient with the resources that we have, as well as continue to look at ways to expand those so that we can expand our impact into other areas as well. So last year, we spent a lot of time working on Cantara's corporate identity. I mean, we're in the identity business, so we thought it was important that we had clarity around our identity as an organization. And again, we refreshed our vision statement to be around equitable and transparent exchange of identity and personal data for mutual value. So that's really kind of the macro impact that we're working to achieve and have in the broader ecosystem. And our mission, which we also refreshed over the past years, to really grow and fulfill the market for trustworthy use of identity and personal data. And we want to continue to build on our assets or our capabilities related to innovation and being known as the place where innovators in the identity and personal data space come to collaborate and build new things and test new ideas. Standardization is core to our organization, and we want to find better ways to support with the development of RFPs so that organizations know how to request the best types of services in this industry. And we think we can provide a lot of baseline content for them to put into their RFPs. And just continued work on good practices and how we continue to evolve our assurance program and drive more industry education. We also spent a lot of time on looking at and mapping kind of value creation, and that ties in with how we think about value prop communication. And so this is an evolving piece of work that we do to understand and test the ways that Cantara is uniquely adding value across the ecosystem and make sure that we're clear on what those connection points are between the organizations that we support and serve. So again, we've mapped out and look at how we're growing the market from trust and compliance and what role Cantara can play in helping grow that market, which we know is foundational to our members and partners that are on the call today, as well as our work in cross recognition of federations. And so we continue to work on looking at other trust frameworks and evaluating those and mapping out translatability between trust frameworks. And then just our continued focus on long-term interoperability for relying parties. We're building out capabilities around communication of trustworthy services. So that's a big focus for our marketing leader now, and helping to make sure we're defining what excellent end user experience looks like and expanding into more usability testing services and coordinating with other organizations that have a focus on improved user experience. And then, as I just referenced, creating some sample RFP or some white papers on best practices for requesting and evaluating different identity and personal data services. So we also want to work to quantify the impact that we're having and be more visible with not just what Cantara is doing, but also of Cantara's member organizations, because really we represent the whole of the members that are on this call today, and we want to make sure that we're helping promote the good that everybody within Cantara is doing and help promote that externally to drive more engagement, more awareness with Cantara. And then we want to continue to communicate the quality impact of Cantara's certification program. And really, I think this goes back to what I said earlier about our assurance program really being the crown jewel of the organization, and continuing to look at ways to help a broader spectrum of people understand what we do and why that's important to their organizations. So looking ahead to 22 board priorities, we, Cantara, want to play a leadership role in helping with the modernization of NIST 863. 863 is very important to a lot of our member organizations. It's heavily tied to our assurance program, and we believe that we have a key role to play in how that is modernized and providing inputs as the draft comes out for revision 4, and helping to drive that towards a more modern approach that we think will have better outcomes for organizations that implement according to 863. We also want to expand beyond standards. So I've talked a lot about the importance of standards and how core it is to what we do, but we also see opportunities to do work on behalf of our member organizations in terms of white papers, thought leadership pieces that they may want to sponsor and have SMEs from across our working groups come together to develop. So we're looking at sponsored content that member organizations will have the ability to sponsor and have Cantara's SMEs and Cantara leadership help develop. And then again, we're constantly working on ways to increase awareness of Cantara's value prop and give our member organizations clarity in terms of the ROI that they get from membership with Cantara. And then a continued focus on organizational efficiency and resiliency. And this last one is a good transition back over to Kay, who's going to talk about a lot of the initiatives that are underway and things that we're doing to improve the organization's efficiency and resiliency. So Kay, with that, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and transition into some of the other things. I wanted to show this slide to give some tribute to Ruth Puente. I'm not sure if Ruth was able to be on the call today. She was going to try, but she wasn't sure if she had a conflict. She had, as you know, been the assurance program director since 2014. She left and now she's part of DIAC. And I think I saw that Joni Brennan is on here also from DIAC. And so we're very grateful. Really, thanks to Ruth, she was instrumental in onboarding the new assurance program manager, Lindsay Adams, and she has been a huge support to us. And those are some of her accomplishments. She did a lot of great things. So I wanted to recognize her today. So in our organizational updates, a couple things to acknowledge. One is that there was one bylaw change, and I acknowledge that this is before my time, but the bylaws were changed to increase the number of the board of directors for at-large directors to be up to a maximum of 17. And previously it was only, I think, 2. So you'll see when we talk about the elections later that we have multiple candidates. 17 is probably the maximum. The minimum, I believe, is 3. And that is in part driven by actually the laws of the state of Delaware where we're incorporated. We are required to have a minimum number of directors. But that said, 17 is, while it's the maximum, it's also very workable. And if you are interested, you can look there on Confluence and actually read the most current bylaws as well as all of our policies and so forth. Some of the things that we've been talking in the board is making sure that all of our policies are up to date. So we're going to be working on that in the coming year as well. Now, I'd like to introduce Steve Barber. Steve is the head of supporting strategies, which is the new accounting firm that we've brought on board. He hasn't had a whole lot of time to take over all of our records, and yet he and his staff have done an amazing job. So I've asked him to talk about the 2022 budget and also to talk to you a little bit about our fee structure as we're looking at going to restructure those. And Steve, I'll turn it over to you and you just tell me when you need me to move on to the next slide.
Sounds good. Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. Steve Barber. I'm a Managing Director of Supporting Strategies, a professional outsourced accounting firm. We signed on with Kay a couple months ago to take over the day-to-day accounting functions and reporting, and worked with her and the board to present what we feel is a reasonable budget for 2022. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it and address them as appropriate. As you can see here, in summary, we are budgeting revenues of $548,000, which represents a small growth of about 1%. Budgeting flat expenses and a net income growth over 2021 of about $50,000, or net income of $50,000, or a 6% growth increase. However, these numbers don't tell the whole story. Within the detail, you can see a shift of membership dues to the launch of the new assurance program fee structure, as well as we have in there some added expenses. We had some expenses decrease from the move away from the previous association management company, but we did add expenses in there for financial audit and submission to an ISO certification process that has been previously budgeted but not used in 2021. Next slide. So as I mentioned, there's a shift of revenues from membership to the assurance program. Assurance program members in 2022 are going to be receiving a one-year complimentary membership. That represents some of the decrease in the membership revenues that I shared on the previous slide. Membership fees have not been adjusted in several years, so there is a 10% price increase budgeted. The pricing is on the screen. You can see it for individual memberships. They're going from 150 to 165. 4 to 100 personnel companies are going from 3,500 to 3,850, and you can see the numbers there. Next slide. Here you can see the pricing for the new assurance program fee structure. On the application fees, it is a 3-year program cycle, with year 1 fees being at $10,000, $20,000, or $30,000, depending on your assurance level, and years 2 and 3 at 50% of that. On the trustmark fees, they are remaining unchanged from prior years at $3,000, $6,000, or $9,000 a year, again, depending on your level. And the accredited assessor fees are also remaining unchanged over prior years. But as part of the shift of revenues, if you're an accredited assessor, you are already going to receive that 1-year complimentary membership in 2022. Next slide. Here I'm showing just some of the details layered in for the new assurance program fee structure. So we're currently budgeting for 15 companies for application fees. That is up from 9 in 2021. On the trustmark side, we are budgeting for 20 companies, up from 11. And on the accredited assessor, we are adding 1 from 5 to 6, so we can have that 3-to-1 relationship still. That is the total number that's on the bottom there. Please disregard that. That should not be in there. That is the budget presentation. So I don't know if there's any questions on this.
I am not seeing anything in the chat. I just wanted to point out to folks, so those of you who are in the assurance program or are contemplating getting into the assurance program, one of the things that we've done is that we have taken away the mandatory membership in order to be in the assurance program. And what we've done instead is ask that when you start the process, you'll pay an application fee that will essentially cover the costs of doing that whole assessment process, the reviews that have to happen inside Cantara and with the Assurance Review Board, and that whole process. And then at the end, once you have been found to be in compliance, then you'll receive trust marks as before. But it does mean that there will not be a requirement to be a member in order to go through the assurance program. And I know that that was kind of a big change, and working with some of the assessors and other folks from IWG, that was something that in order to comply with an ISO 17065 certification had to be done. And so we had to make some adjustments in order to try to make that work. And because we know that the companies who are already in the assurance program probably already did their budgets, because now it's the end of the year, we felt it was important to give them the option to have that complimentary membership for the coming year. And then after that, we're actually looking at giving discounts to the companies that are in the assurance program, since they would need to pay their membership in addition to the assurance program fees. So that's kind of the big change there. If you have questions later, we can come back to that. If you have questions over time or you want to have a conversation, you're welcome to reach out to me, and Steve has been terrific at engaging with us. So thank you, Steve. I really appreciate you getting on, and to your staff for all your hard work in this. At this point, I'd like to now turn over to Leif Johansson. Is Leif on the call? I'm assuming he
I
is.
am. Thank you.
Yay! All right.
Yes. Unfortunately, I find myself in a little bit of a bad bandwidth situation, so I'm going to do this without video to, in the hope that that will be sufficient to get my word across. So thank you all for joining. I think I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record here, and to reiterate sort of how smooth the transition from the Colin Ruth era to the Kay and Lindsay era has been. From the assurance point of view, it's been absolutely frictionless, which quite frankly is makes me happy, but it's also surprising, because the assurance program is quite a complex beast, and to be able to take that on so quickly and with so little, no disruption at all is a testament to Kay and Lindsay being extremely professional and knowledgeable. So we're very, very happy. I'm not sure how many people know what we do in the assurance review board. And what I usually try to say is that we're the process owners of the assurance program, and the IWG are the content owners. So the IWG owns the assurance accreditation scheme, the criteria that the Cantara assessors use to assess services, whereas the ARB own the process of certification and assessment. Now, there has been some mention here about possible going for an ISO certification, and that at that point, I think the ARB would look quite different. It would probably get split up into different parts. But as of today, the program we have it's actually quite a simple one. And we use a network of certified assessors. I think many of them are on the call today. And those are the people who do the actual heavy lifting in Cantara. They provide assessment services under the Cantara assessment program, and do so at a very high degree of quality. And the assurance review board is there to essentially provide oversight and quality assurance for the program, and also to make sure that the assessors go through their own quality control process. The main focus area for the assurance program this year has been we talk about it as an experiment, but it's really a development in the assurance program towards a focus on what we call component services. Component services are, I actually have to back away a little bit into Cantara history in order to explain that concept. Cantara used to be all about auditing credential service providers, or APIs, essentially. IDPs, essentially, identity providers. Now, increasingly, we've seen the market for identity providers be stratified. There is a lot of companies who provide parts of an IDP ecosystem and an identity ecosystem. There are companies who provide identity validation services and various forms of support services. And there seems to be a lot of interest in having these components go through the relevant parts of the Cantara program. And that's what we've been doing this year. We've been working with the assessors to make sure we understand what that means, and we understand what it, how this changes the requirements on the assessors in the Cantara program. So I think what we will do in the coming year is to more or less wrap that experiment up and say, well, we now understand how to work the components, and we understand how they change the program, and we understand how they sort of affect the criteria. It's been an interesting and very fruitful few months working with this, and we've of course done this with real service providers and real companies who are actually interested in getting Cantara trust marks. So it's not an experiment in the sense that we're sort of trying something out and then throwing the results away. It's an experiment in the sense that we're developing knowledge and skill as we go. So it's been a very interesting year, and what we can see, the sort of an increased interest and awareness of the Cantara program, and paradoxically, perhaps, in the light that of the fact that the U.S. government FICAM program disappeared a few years ago, it in effect actually meant more business for Cantara. So paradoxically, the lack of formal requirements from the U.S. government meant that Cantara actually had more work to do, which I guess might be worth some reflection. But there we are. I think that's kind of it from my report back and sort of status quo of the assurance program. It's a good list of logos there. These are all of the, it's a mix of the assessors and certified CSPs that we certify currently. And I think anyone who's sort of been involved in the space will recognize that we're seeing a lot of identity proofing providers here go through the program. I don't think that's an accident. I think in the coming years, we're going to see some interesting effects from the renewed interest from the U.S. government in login.gov, for instance. And I think that's it. Back to you, Kay.
Thank you, Leif. I really appreciate you doing that. And it was very informative. So I hope that everyone else learned a lot. And thank you for your kind words for Lindsay and myself, and also for those on the Assurance Review Board who added notes and your agreement in the chat. We're very grateful. It's a lot of work, and but we've been very pleased to do it. And the other thing that's been really terrific for us is that the Assurance Review Board, all of the members and all the assessors have really been terrific and very supportive to work with us. So I really want to give a shout out to all of you who are also on the call, I know, and thank you. Your professionalism and your willingness to work with us is really what helps make it such a good program. So we're very grateful for that. Okay, so to keep moving, just a little bit on a membership report. There's in some ways there's not a lot for me to tell you because we're in transition. I don't have any nice graph or anything, but let me just tell you that one of the things that I find interesting about Cantara is that compared to other membership organizations, at least currently, your membership base is very static, right? It's not like you're dropping off. You're staying very consistently around the same numbers. And while you might lose a couple of members here and there, you seem to keep gaining new members. So every month we have new members, and every month we have those who are renewing. It's a combination of different size companies as well as individuals. And I think that really speaks volumes about the fact that Cantara is doing good work that is providing benefit to folks. And what we hope to do, as I said in the beginning, is really build on your success, build on all the good things that you're already doing to try to drive more membership. And to that point, sort of the membership, well, here's all of the different companies and all the logos. So There's a lot of different folks. And as I hope you can see, it's a very international group. And some of the organizations are located all over the world, some in multiple places. And there are some government agencies as well as the private sector. So it's really an impressive mix. I'd like to highlight a couple of members and the projects that they have done that have really leveraged either the work or the relationships or the collaboration within Cantara to be successful. And so if Alec Laws is out there, the first one that I wanted to recognize is from Identos. Alec, are you there?
Yes, hello. Hi, Kay.
Great.
Hi, everybody. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, thank you. So tell us about the great work you're doing and how Cantara has made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, Cantara continues, for me at least, to be like the perfect place where I can bring ideas and get feedback and just have an open channel with like sort of this group of volunteer experts who all have their different perspectives and ideas and are willing to share and listen and provide their input about how I want to use UMA and solve problems in reality. Like we're working on a project with BC Children's Hospital today using UMA to protect access to health records and device sharing. And it's a complex situation with parents and children and their clinicians. And I don't know what other group I could take this use case to and find other people working on almost the exact same things, looking to solve these problems in standard ways so that we can all eventually connect it all together and, you know, create amazing wide ecosystems of services and people and data and realize that vision of a connected future health ecosystem, right? So those are my use cases, but it's amazing to see all the other people in the group have similar problems and how we're all trying to address them using these standards and having these conversations to sort of converge at some point and have interop and all those amazing ideas, but you have to do some work and talk about it and agree to make it happen. So I think that's been my experience with Cantara, at least, just a group of amazing folks who are willing to always listen, provide input, and make my solutions better for my company and our customers. So yeah.
Thank you, Alec. That's a terrific experience. I really appreciate you sharing that. I hope that speaks to some of the other folks. I know from having conversations with some of the other people on the call that they've experienced the same thing as you, and I'm really grateful. And just to let you know, no good deed goes unpunished. So I'm sure that in the coming year, I'm going to be calling upon you again, because I think that's an excellent example. And that's the kind of thing that I know people in the field are looking for. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And thank you for putting together this slide to kind of explain what you're working on. And we'll hear from you again when we get to the work group reports. Another program that we wanted to highlight, and we're not really in a good position to go through that because Matt was called away. But I just wanted to point out that SoCure has really done some work around the fairness and inclusion issue when it comes to identity and for example, mobile licenses and AI and all these different things. But they've actually tried to do some work to put some data together to measure access and so on. And that I think it's certainly an area that, as I'm meeting with representatives of several governments, that is of interest to them. So I hope that we'll be able to continue to do some work in that area. For those of you who know me, I've also in my volunteer time, I've been very engaged with the Women in Leadership organization, and that's certainly something that I've worked on with them. So that will be something for the future as well. So as we go to move on here, I'd like to call upon Andrew Hughes to really run us through reports from all the work groups. And so I turn it over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Kate. Just stay on this slide for a sec because I didn't get my slides in on time. So there you go. So yeah, the Leadership Council and the work groups, some big accomplishments this year. We're going to hear from a selection of the work group chairs on what's been going on over the last 12 months. You may recall from previous years, we focus our work groups on output, publications for the industry to pick up, immediately use, immediately consume, and generally adding to the maturity of the overall industry and reference material to build upon. We had relatively low volume of publications this year, but inside the work groups, there was the same degree of heavy lifting and discussion and preparing and commenting on other publications and that sort of work. For the upcoming year, Leadership Council is, which is all the chairs of all the work groups, obviously, or not obviously, working to align ourselves with the board priorities. So we view the Leadership Council and the work groups as the engine of Cantara, so driving the mission. And this year and last year, we're continuing to align with and be the power plant for Cantara to keep us going forward, evolving with industry, and really shaping the conversations out there. And we're happy to have as many people as want to join the work groups to enrich the discussions and the output. Again, in the upcoming year, we're going to start a member engagement committee, and that's going to be a joint committee between Leadership Council, the board, and Kay as exec director, really trying to connect the value and return on investment that members have in Cantara and expose that value, engage members to try to close the circle of value, right? That whole value network idea. So you'll hear some announcements coming out about that as we go forward, and hope to engage with you in the new year. Next slide, please. So what we're going to do is do a couple of work group spotlights. Sal, are you ready to go? Looking for the mute button.
Yeah,
There it is.
yeah, multiple mute firewalls, so nothing leaks out. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Kay, Matt, Andrew, and the rest of the Cantara team. I'm Sal D'Agostino, and the secretary of the Cantara Leadership Council, and also the chair of the Anchor Work Group. In 2021, as a work group, we drafted pre-publication, as Andrew points out, as opposed to some of the earlier publications, which are referenced on this slide, which many of the work group members have been involved with. But what we worked on was a roadmap that we're referring to as a privacy as expected protocol for human controlled access and mobility in physical and digital space. And that roadmap included the design principles, experience flow, and a measure of e-privacy assurance that actually complements and addresses gaps in 863 to support this. The work group itself brings together experts in the consent record information structure, which is the current working draft in ISO, and we contributed extensive comments on the working draft. And then in terms of other drafts, which again are pre-publication, we defined an initial notice receipt as part of the protocol that precedes consent and is kind of as opposed to consent management to support terms and conditions and cookies. And we're now in the process of renewing our charter, holding elections. A list email went out this morning, Andrew, you'd be happy to know that. And it includes specific use cases for receipts that we've actually been run into and been talking about over the course of the year. And I'll just go through those quickly. Receipts as a vehicle for micro-credentials, default data receipts for web evidence capture, receipts for data rights exchange, which I think is an important advance, and performance of privacy rights and controls. That refers to the control set to the insurance program I picked up as an example. Receipt privacy clauses for enhanced notification policy, and some extensions for identity protocols, which is the last thing which we've already been, Cantara provides an opportunity for us to do that, and we're already engaged with UMA in these conversations. So it's been a good year. We certainly want to publish more, but I think we did a lot of really important work, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sal. That's great. Yeah, some years it's all heads down work, and some years it's all publication to the world. And great work in the work group there. Catherine, are you ready for us? Catherine Schulten to speak to fire work.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Catherine Schulten. I'm the vice chair of the FIRE working group. FIRE stands for Federated Identifiers for Resilient Ecosystems. We have been able to pick up the good work and continue to leverage a work product that came out of the IDESG called the IDEF, the Identity Ecosystem Framework. It's probably been a while since maybe some of you have even looked at that document, but this is sort of a source for some of the work that we're doing. The ID ecosystem framework is a baseline for trust frameworks. It focuses on privacy, security, interoperability, usability. It has some best practices. So we've been working with the Office of the National Coordinator, which is a group underneath Health and Human Services in the US, the ONC, and exposing them to this trust framework. And the Cantara Trust Registry. We're also in response to the FTC, which had some concerns around privacy. We've been talking to them about developing some assessment criteria that could be added or used for a digital wallet that might hold healthcare data. Once you get into the consumer or the non-covered entity side of the healthcare world, so this is sort of like consumer-facing apps not developed by a provider or payer, the FTC comes into play there instead of Health and Human Services, but they have equal concerns around the HIPAA privacy. And going into next year, we're looking at our goal is to design a interoperable, user-centric, standard-based, distributed trust framework. So we're working on some use cases around that. And we are, I think like a lot of the different groups, is that there's a lot of we cozy up to one another. We have topics that we work on that are similar or that influence other work groups. So you just saw with Sal talking, the FIRE work group has worked with that work group, but we're also looking at the PEMC working group, the Privacy Enhanced Mobile Credential. So going on, just one last thing right now, our next meeting, we're going to be looking at officers for our working group. So if you're interested in learning more about our work group, please check out our wiki page and read about our charter and see if this is a group that you might want to contribute to.
Thanks very much, Catherine. Next slide. Yeah, a lot of great work there, carrying the torch of NSTIC and IDSG. Really good work in the foundations, and we're looking forward to evolving it. For those of you that are wondering why we're holding all these officers and chairs and elections and stuff, it's an annual refresh process just to make sure that we're still on track with work group goals and give everyone a chance to take stock of where things sit every year. Ken, are you ready for IAWG?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone. I'm Ken Dagg, chair of the Identity Assurance Working Group. As was mentioned by Leif, we're the steward of the Cantara Identity Assurance Framework, the IAF. We take care of the service assessment criteria that assessors use. And as well, we take it upon ourselves to comment on other trust framework schemes and identity legislation. And that's been a busy year for that work this year. We haven't published a new version of the service assessment criteria, but there will be a new one coming out early in 2022. In terms of the work that we did with the service assessment criteria that will be coming out shortly, we're As Leif mentioned as well, the experiment with component services, we've been looking at the surface assessment criteria to see how they need to be evolved to deal with component services. We investigated comparable alternative controls and did some investigation with NIST and GFA on that. We looked as well at presentation attack detection and how that worked in the service assessment criteria and services so that assessors would be able to assess that properly. In terms of comments on other identity trust frameworks and legislation, we've worked in Canada with the Pan-Canadian Trust Framework, Australian, the federal digital identity legislation, position papers that they put out for comment. United Kingdom, we worked on their digital identity and attributes trust framework. United States, we did some work with NIST 863, their ontology for authentication. The minimum standards for driver's license and identity card, we contributed to that work out of Department of Security. We have commented
Ken's having internet glitch, I think. Okay, I'll just finish a little bit. So if you were ever wondering if Cantara is international and what standing we have in industry, many of these comments and updates and contributions to other national schemes were solicited by those other nations. So the IAWG maintains a very strong position in industry, and the opinions of the group are sought out. Sorry, Ken, I filled in it a little bit for you. You were glitching out there. So we're actually going to go to the next next group. Thank you very much, Ken. Appreciate all the hard work from IAWG. Back to Alec for UMA, and we're a little bit tight on time, so you know,
yeah,
we don't need the super details.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to highlight is that we are starting to see a lot of adoption of UMA in practice here. So two really awesome projects to highlight. One in Canada and Ontario, where we're using UMA to help citizens protect a verified health identity. And more recently in the UK, the Pensions Dashboard program has selected UMA as sort of the core enabling technology for their use case. And that's something that's looking to go live next year and is currently being actively developed by the UK government Pensions Dashboard program. So really, really great proof points for the standard and for the group there. And just in terms of what we've been working on in the group, a lot of discussion development around where we can take UMA from here. What are the gaps that we're seeing through implementations? What are things that we could address or provide more guidance on for implementers? So really trying to sort of glob onto that adoption and make it easier for more people to get involved and use the technology. So I think that's a good recap, and I'll hand it back to you, Andrew. Yeah.
Thanks, Alec. And as we saw in the member spotlight, it's actually possible to make money using UMA, and the protocols and standards come out of Cantara, which is very important with engagement and value for money. Next slide, please, Kate. And to wrap up the work group presentations, we're going to hear about the newest work group, and all the other chairs, close your ears. The most exciting work group that we have on the go now. Okay, all the chairs open up yours again. John.
So members might recall that last year we had a privacy and information protecting privacy and information report in mobile driving license ecosystems related to the release of the ISO standards for mobile driving licenses. That report's been released and has been, I think, relatively well received, although for some reason it hasn't gone viral on TikTok. Nonetheless, it does seem to be well received. We've formed the acronym is now PEMC, Privacy Enhancing Mobile Credentials, for a new work group to produce requirements for verifiers, providers, issuers, relying parties to demonstrate that their implementations of mobile credential are aligned with the various privacy principles and practices globally. So we've just been formed. We've had a few meetings. I would more properly be called the interim work group chair because we haven't had the elections yet. Hopefully that's today or next week's meeting. But we've got some significant industry input on the work group, and I'm looking forward to producing with the group an interim draft implementers report by March that frames the nature of the report and shows some sample requirements, and will give implementers a taste of where we're going and how they can start working towards compliance. And if all goes well, this may be another conformance assessment that we may be able to add to the Cantara offering. So I know we're brief on time, so back to you, Andrew.
Thanks, John. It is actually a very exciting work group. Several of us in the work group and around Cantara work on various ISO standardization work groups and committees. And PEMC is attracting a lot of attention at the international level. And we have cross participation between the ISO work group for mobile driver's licenses and PEMC. And it's going to be a very interesting evolution because it's a very essential brick in the whole structure of trustworthy mobile credentials. And we're making sure that we get ahead of the game on this one. So that's it for work groups. Quick run through the highlights, and yeah, come join us. Spend some time every week chatting about interesting stuff and producing publications. Back to you, Kay.
Thank you, Andrew, for all of your leadership with that leadership council and all the chairs, and thanks to all the chairs who presented today. You really are doing wonderful work, and I am very appreciative. I think one of the most interesting things is it tends to be very cutting edge, I would say, very sort of what's currently out there. Some of the things, like the last group that we talked about, it's not like we've already lived with some standards that have been around forever and a day, right? So the requirements and things that they're working on are really very critical. So I'm excited for Cantara to be well placed to continue to have that kind of leadership role. And it's thanks to those volunteers who've really kept the ball rolling and really are continuing to do some good things. I just wanted to give a shout out to some of the organizations where we have liaison work, and some of them are on the call today. And so I did want to recognize them. Ryan Howells is on here with the Karen Alliance, and the Karen Alliance, Direct Trust, and also Stewards of Change Institute are organizations that all really have leadership roles in the healthcare industry. And it has been terrific to partner with them. We're trying to put together a product that will be useful to healthcare providers, as well as those who provide services to healthcare providers around the assurance program. We're partnering with Direct Trust to put something together that shows both, sort of shines a spotlight on their PKI process, as well as the assurance process that we have at Cantara. And we're hoping for a lot of good synergy there. It's one of those things where, you know, ONC has written into their TEFCA, their trust framework document, that all vendors should be certified or accredited for IL2 and AL2 and so on, which is, you know, the place to do that is here. And so I'd like to shout out to Ryan Howells, who is on the call today, and I appreciate all of the partnership and the opportunities to work together. And even though I'm the new kid on the block, they have been very embracing and welcoming. And I get the chance to meet with them almost weekly. And I think that we're really going to do some great things together. So you'll be hearing more about that, I'm sure. I also wanted to give a shout out to Joni Brennan, who was on the call previously. I'm not sure if she's still able to stay on, but Joni and she's obviously the head of DIAC and in Canada, and And as you've seen, we also have many members in Cantara who are also based in Canada. She and I meet on a bi-weekly basis. We are plotting about what kinds of things we can do jointly in the coming year. And so as we flesh out what that might look like, I will keep you informed, but she's been a terrific partner and huge support. And of course, has a lot of history that she can educate me on about Cantara. And then there are a variety of other groups, the FIDO Alliance next week. They're actually hosting, I don't recall the exact title, but it's essentially they're featuring their liaisons. So I'll be speaking at their conference next week. So I'm very appreciative of that. We've done some joint meetings with the federal government as well. The Future Identity Council, very engaged around mobile driver's licenses and very supportive of the work that the PEMC is doing and are participating in that. ISO, we've mentioned several times. There are multiple people on this call even who are very engaged, who are liaisons for us and who really, we need them to be in those places. A lot of times that's a lot of hard work and it requires the dedication of a lot of time, sometimes, you know, in the middle of the night, as some of you are having to do today. And we're very appreciative that you are there to represent us. Also, I've got included here T-Scheme, also partner with us, participate with our Assurance Review Board, and have been willing to speak at conferences on our behalf, especially during the pandemic when it has not always been easy to travel internationally. So I appreciate that. Digital Identity New Zealand, terrific partnership there. And of course, when Colin Wallace semi-retired and moved, he moved back to New Zealand and they immediately grabbed him up and he is now their executive director, which is terrific. And I'm constantly getting information from them just to make me think about all the stuff I should be doing. So he's doing great work down there and I think they're very active. And then last, the Women in Identity, I mentioned to you before, actually before I came to Cantara, Women in Identity and Cantara had signed an MOU to support and partner together. And I've been talking with them about what that might look like for the coming year. So I also want to give a shout out to Judith Gleaner. Judith is with the Trust Over IP project. And I will confess to Judith, if she's still on the call, that I tried to figure out how to take an image of their logo and get it on here and I couldn't make it work. So I apologize, Judith, you should be there. I'm going to tell you how long I spent trying to get it to work and I was unsuccessful. But if you see Judith now on your screen, she has her logo there. Did you want to say anything, Judith?
Just happy to be here and I'll get a logo over to you. No problem. There's just, you know, we really hope to be doing a lot more work directly with Cantara in the new year. And so we're looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. Me too. Excellent. Thank you. And sorry about that, but thanks for helping me out. So that's kind of an overview. I apologize. I hope I didn't miss any liaison representatives who are also on the call today, but thank you all for joining us and thank you for your willingness to work with us and, you know, make great strides in the coming year. The next portion of this, I'd actually like to turn over to Eric Thompson. Eric is a member of the board of directors and has been for some time. And as I mentioned, it is that time of year when we have election of directors at large. And I'd like to ask Eric to walk us through this.
Excellent, excellent. Can you guys hear me? Excellent. All right. So yeah, as Kay and Matt Thompson have been talking about throughout this, we have a big agenda for 2022. And so as part of that, I'm excited to introduce the at-large candidates for director that have been nominated to help support the key things like modernizing 863, improving the value proposition that we have here at Cantara and really building Cantara and moving it forward. So first, we have Patrick Clancy. So he joined the board earlier this year representing IDEMIA, where he's held various roles since 2013. And then we have Peter Davis, who's the Chief Privacy Officer, Enterprise Architect at Airside. and he's been with Cantara since it was Liberty Alliance. So he's been here a while. He's also a current member of the board, and he brings over 20 years of experience across the identity management domain. Andrew Johnson, so he joins us from Canada. He's with Two Keys, and he joined the board in 2021 and is also an active contributor to the work group sponsorship team. And speaking of our global directors, so Thorsten Niebuhr, he is managing director and owner of his own company. He joins us out of Germany. He is focused on helping clients with managing the identities and the challenges that come with that. And next is Eric Thompson. That's myself. I am with Experian. I've been with the board of directors since 2020, and I'm also an active participant in the IAWG. I've been in fraud and identity management for over 15 years, bring with some experience from the financial sector primarily. We also have Maria Vicino. She's with Calvert Consulting, and she joined the board as one of the first at-large directors last year, and has played a crucial role in driving the current and future strategic initiatives that we have going on. In her work at Calvert Consulting, she works directly with many of the federal clients that use our services related to identity management. Next. The next one, Matt Thompson, needs no introduction. He is the current president of the board, and he's with Socure now, and he's the general manager of the public sector solutions. And he is really looking forward to bringing that strategic vision to life over the next year. And finally, Allison Beavers is one of the candidates for the director, and she's with Growth Consulting. She supports clients in identity-driven digital transformation and brings a focus of digital modernization and identity here. So that wraps up the candidates, and shortly you will be asked to vote, and so look for your e-ballot and make sure to help play your role in making Cantara great and moving our strategic initiatives forward over the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And I appreciate you kind of giving that overview of the candidates. And they are, for the most part, also all on the call, which I am very grateful for, and certainly grateful for their support. One of the things that you might have noticed is that we have done away with the paid director member of the board. And so we have gone to basically all directors at large who are all elected from the membership. We still, however, have two representatives from the Leadership Council. It would typically be the chair of the Leadership Council and another person who is elected by the Leadership Council. And it has been Andrew Hughes and Ken Dagg who have been those representatives. In addition, there are a couple of observers. For example, we invite Leif Johansson to come to the board meetings, and he does periodically. And I also just want to say, so that's why you saw who the candidates are. Hopefully that was helpful to you. You will be getting a ballot. That is one of the last things that the virtual association management company is doing for us. So I would expect it will take them a couple of days before they actually get that to you. But we encourage you to please submit your vote and participate in that process. It's certainly very important. And I have to say that as I've started working with these folks, I think everyone is interested in playing a real active role in leadership, and that will make all the difference in propelling Cantara to the next level, if you will. So, so the last thing is really to open up the floor if anyone has questions. I've seen several comments in the chat, but not any specifically directed at any of the things that we've discussed today. But As I said, the board members, the current board members are on the call. Andrew is available. Several of the work group chairs are also available. And so we would welcome any questions that you might have or comments for the good of the order, if you will.
Hey, I'd just
we
like
have-
to make a comment that we do have an appropriate number of Canadians on this call, so we're for Canadians. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Yes, we have quite a mix. It's a good thing. And I'm glad that we have Thorsten, right? So we really need that European presence. So, and he's on the board.
Maybe the same for the Brits.
Yeah, and that's also true. Yes.
Thanks for that.
Yes.
And Eric, great that you managed to pronounce my name correctly. For everyone, we had a discussion yesterday and he asked me, hey, sorry, I'm really sorry, but I have no idea how to pronounce that. So great job.
Excellent.
Thanks. And Thorsten wasn't going to try and pronounce your company name.
I did want to throw out. Oh, I'm sorry, Thorsten.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, as you can see from the last slide, I really, I've already said vote. Everybody needs to vote. We would love to see you get active in some of the work groups. There will be some others that are in the process now of getting started. So there will be more opportunities to volunteer and be actively participating. And we hope you'll consider that. So be watching for our publications. We appreciate all of our volunteers. We couldn't do this without you. The organization wouldn't exist. And we're very grateful. I think we will be revamping like our newsletter and some of the other outreach that we're doing. So expect that it'll start to look different. I'm sure that you can tell. I don't know Colin Wallace well, but I get the impression we have very different personalities and we probably talk differently. And so it's going to sound more like me, whether that's good or bad remains to be seen. But some of that will be coming in this coming year. We're hoping to do some webinars and as Andrew talked about, some white papers, and we certainly want to have a presence in all these different places, especially the places where you represent. So I do have a couple of email addresses here I wanted to point out for a lot of questions, like if you're having any issues when you go to sign up or your login isn't working for the Confluence or whatever it might be, I really encourage you to use the email address staff@cantarinitiative.org. And the reason I do that is because 9 times out of 10, the wonderful staff who've been on the call helping me today, that goes to a distribution list so they all get the questions so that the right people can come together to get that done and get that response to you or get it fixed, whatever the issue is. So to the extent that you can use that, it's more likely to get to the right person more quickly than if you just send it to me. On the other hand, I recognize that I'm new. I've already had a couple people in the chats say that they haven't had a chance to meet with me and they would really like that opportunity. I welcome that. I appreciate those who've already reached out today. I would love the chance for us to talk. So that is my direct email address, k@cantarinitiative.org. So please feel free to reach out to me, especially as there are other things that you specifically want to talk about. I just wanted to make sure to throw all that out there. We only have a few more minutes. And I'm not seeing any actual questions. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity to explain to you what the different contact methodologies are. Does anyone from the board or the leadership council want to have any closing comments or?
That's a good meeting.
Yeah, Kay, I think you're off to a good start.
Thank you.
I'm gonna see Judith.
Oh, Judith, did you raise your hand? Did you want to speak?
I just have a community announcement, which is that the Trust Over IP Foundation has their all members meeting today, and they it's a special topic with Glyph about the new VILEs that are coming out. So I just put that in the chat. It starts in a half an hour. You can get the Zoom on our wiki, and I just thought there might be people here that'd be interested in it.
Very good. Thank you. And I know there were some folks, I think they probably had to drop off from the, what is it? Me to Be Alliance. Unfortunately, this was also their all member meeting. So this has been a busy week. A lot of folks, I know DIAC had their meeting yesterday. So I know there's a lot going on. So thanks.
I think that maybe once we're all able to get together, we should have it in, I don't know, June, July, in a nice sunny and warm beachside place to avoid the conflicts with other AGMs, of course.
Well, you're getting a thumbs up for that, Andrew, so that's great. All right, well, I would just, if you'll permit me, I would like to also thank my staff, those that I introduced you in the very beginning, Armin and Karen and Lindsay, and my interns who are also on the call. So thanks to all of you. This was a great meeting. I really appreciate all your hard work to support it. And I hope it seemed very seamless to all of you, because in the background, I'm chatting, help, help. And they've all stepped right up and really made it move so smoothly. And I'm very appreciative. I have inherited a terrific staff and I'm very grateful. Well, in the absence of another question, maybe I can give you all back 5 minutes of your day. And I appreciate you made the time today. And I look forward to working with you more and more in the coming days and months, and wish you the best holidays and a happy new year until we see you again next year.